What's the inflation picture like, at least from your end, for the month of January, and what do you think are the main drivers here?
Well, they're looking at low inflation around the 3% range, but I think we should be more instructive in terms of what benefits or what angles, what areas of the inflation numbers should we look at. And to me, I think looking at the food inflation should be more relevant than the overall relevant figures, overall inflation figures. So for example, last time we were looking at 3.6%, but food inflation in some areas were at 8%, 6%. So I think beyond looking at the general numbers of the inflation index, we should look at what matters to most people. So for example, if your income goes to food, or 80% of your food, of your budget goes to food, the most relevant inflation number for you would be the food inflation. So for policymakers, let us not just look at the overall inflation numbers. Let's look at what is relevant to our people for policymaking.
Given that, Prof. Leyco, do you expect at least food inflation to remain elevated for the rest of the year, and what could possibly offset that?
I believe so. I think the major casualty of the pandemic is our logistics, and the food supply has been disrupted. I think for the most part that would remain high, and things like major food items, fish, rice, agriculture, that should be a major focus for our policymakers.
Like what you mentioned, Professor Leyco, one of the major industries that has been affected would have to be the logistics sector. But now restrictions have been eased, particularly in Metro Manila and some provinces, to alert level 2. How much of a lift are you expecting from that?
That would ease up a little bit, but food production is still a major problem. Our agricultural base has not been really that much of a dynamic sector. So we have to look at food production or agriculture in general. Logistics just one of them. So now that the transport is easing up, that would be a good factor to consider for food prices.
All right, Professor Leyco, various models here from different think tanks pointing to at least a possible continuous decline in COVID infections here across the country, even projecting a possible end at least to the pandemic here. But given that as well, how does that affect at least your growth forecast for the rest of the year?
Oh, that will be a positive. If we ease up, if the Omicron basically eases up, I think that would be good for the economy. But the question is, are our economic infrastructures, our production ready to get mobilized again? Transportation is a must. If our people cannot go to factories and offices, that will still be a major hindrance to picking up in our economy.